The principal-agent problem can occur when a person, the principal, hires another, the agent, to do a job, and if the interests of the principal and the agent are not aligned. A home buyer, the principal, wants to buy at a low price. Most real estate agents, however, charge a percentage fee, meaning they get paid more if the price is high. Of course, not every transaction has this problem. Many real estate agents do a great job for their principals, despite perverse incentives. An extreme case occurs when the principal is dead. In their will, a wealthy person sets up a foundation for some purpose and puts in charge a board of trustees, who often work part-time and sometimes unpaid. This weak oversight means that the person actually running the foundation, the agent, can act against the interests of the principal. This is exactly how many so-called legacy foundations are set up. One of the biggest, the Ford Foundation, sank $1 billion into overhead costs, like staff salaries over 10 years. But let's look at the Rhodes Scholarship, set up in 1902 by Cecil Rhodes. The world's most prestigious scholarship program finances students from certain countries to study at Oxford University. It's administered from Rhodes House in Oxford, seat of the Rhodes Trust, and its CEO, the so-called warden, the agent. We'll be focusing on John Rowett, warden in the early 2000s, and Charles Kahn, the current warden. As warden, Rowett set up the Mandela Rhodes Scholarships in South Africa, basically a copy of the Rhodes Scholarships, but just for South Africa. Did the agent Rowett use his own money, or did he find donors? No, instead he convinced the trustees to transfer around $15 million from his principal, the Rhodes Trust in the UK, to the Mandela Rhodes Foundation in South Africa. He traveled from Oxford to South Africa around 16 times in just 1 year, in either business or first class. The resulting financial strain reduced the educational support. At the lowest point in 2008, only 81 Rhodes Scholars could be selected. This was before the global financial crisis had fully hit. It was a direct consequence of Rowett's actions. But Rowett had already moved on and did very well for himself. He became the founding CEO of the Mandela Rhodes Foundation and was awarded an OBE for contributions to the relations between Britain and South Africa. This is questionable, however. Despite the Mandela Rhodes Foundation, statues of Cecil Rhodes in South Africa have been destroyed, paint-bombed, or worse. This so-called Rhodes Must Fall movement, led in part by a number of Rhodes scholars, does not stop there. It also aims to rid society of the accomplishments of people like Charles Darwin and Isaac Newton, privileged white males who achieve progress not by work and ingenuity, but of course by oppressing others.
If I personally were committed to enforcing decolonization, science as a whole is a product of Western modernity, and the whole thing should be scratched off.
How about Charles Kahn, the current warden? He partnered the Rhodes Scholarships with two organizations, the Atlantic Institute and the Schmidt Science Fellowships. Rhodes Scholars for Intellectual Diversity have written several letters to the Rhodes Trust criticizing the political bias at the Rhodes Trust, including scholar selections and the partnership with the highly partisan Atlantic Institute. In the one response we got, Kahn flatly denied political bias, calling our concerns perplexing and simply wrong. We'll shortly upload videos detailing the political bias at the Rhodes Scholarships. Let's look at just one example, namely the Atlantic Institute, headquartered at Rhodes House. It runs the Atlantic Fellowships, which are all about identity politics, social justice, equity. Even the brain health program is not about medical research, but about equity. This has nothing to do with scholarship, but rather with fringe left political activism. The website of the Atlantic Philanthropies is full of this too. For example, a radical anti-law and order stance. They claim that 3.5 million school children are unfairly suspended each year in the U.S. The Department of Education reports around 3.5 million students are suspended each year. So effectively, Atlantic claims that every single suspension is unfair, regardless of how disruptive a student is, preventing others from learning. We found this picture on the Atlantic website a few days ago. It very much resembles the homepage of Black Lives Matter with the hands up don't shoot thing, accusing law enforcement and wider society of systemic racism. Such divisive identity politics is staple food of the more extreme political left and for the most part simply not true.
Brown never surrendered with his hands up, and Wilson was justified in shooting Brown.
Furthermore, quantitative research that's the opposite of filling shows there's no racial disparity in the context of lethal police shootings. But what did the agent Warden Kahn get out of pushing the Rhodes Scholarships? That should be politically neutral, ever further to the political left. For one, Kahn secured a position advising the Rhodes Trust on the two partnerships after the expiration of his term in June 2018. So Kahn will receive payments even though he won't be working at Rhodes House anymore. He increased staff count at Rhodes House in part to oversee the new partnerships. In total, staff count went up by 75% over the last 5 years. Staff cost doubled from 1.7 to 3.5 million US dollars. The highest paid staff member, transparency is lacking, but we think it's Khan's predecessor made more than $200,000 in 2012, a very generous salary. It seems that in 2017, Khan was paid almost double that at close to $400,000. This data comes from reports the trust has to publish by law. Warden pay doubled in 5 years. In 2012, 2 Rhodes House staff made more than £100,000, a lot of money. In 2017, 6 made £100,000 or more per year. Let's put Khan's pay in context. The best paid U.S. college president is Maria Clough from Harvey Mudd College, who made $614 per enrolled student a few years back. By comparison, Khan makes around $1,500 per Rhodes Scholar at Oxford. Colleges grant scholarships and teach students. The Rhodes Trust only does the former. The average Oxford professor earns $128,000 a year. This would probably be an appropriate salary level for the warden of Rhodes House. The UK Prime Minister makes $212,000 per year. Khan's salary of almost $400,000 is actually comparable to the US President, and this is being employed by a small organization whose sole purpose it is to grant scholarships from money that someone else, Cecil Rhodes, once donated. Keep this in mind when these wonderful, virtuous, and righteous people talk about how much they care for the planet, the poor, and the oppressed. While you pay down student loans, remember how much of your money ends up lining the pockets of the ever-growing number of educational administrators who often claim to be so concerned about college accessibility. So keep your eyes and ears open and don't get conned. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it in your network. For more information about Rhodes Scholars for Intellectual Diversity, check this link. And if you want to support our work, please follow this link.